Okay, guys, so welcome to the URBONUS podcast. I'm the host, URBONUS. I'm joined by Rytis Vyšniauskas, Augustas Šuliauskas, and guys, we're living in a crazy world with Serbia and Germany advancing to the FIBA World Cup 2023 finals. Not many see that coming. Not many see Andy Obst MVP chance coming into the fourth quarter in a game against the United States. A lot of crazy things that we are going to discuss in this podcast. For sure, we will give our final predictions and the MVP predictions as well. But what would be your just first thoughts, first reactions about both semifinal games that we had? I actually just came from the FIBA talk show event where it was Carmelo Anthony, Pau Gasol, Luis Scola, and they were, stunned as well by the whole outcome, by the game, especially that Germany beat the United States in their, let's say, in their own style, the way United States play. There was this narrative or the idea of trying to beat USA, trying to slow the pace of the game, to break all these fast break situations and stuff like that. But Germans just outscored United States. So, just in general, what do you feel?
I mean, if they had listened to our bonus podcast, then they knew it was not a surprise. No, I'm kidding.
Yeah, just like first few thoughts, Americans just couldn't use the FIBA rules to their advantage. And the fact that there's no defensive free second rule should help them be better defensively in rim protection and all that stuff. And they didn't pay too much attention to detail. They were punished by really simple things. Of course, they have talent to outscore anybody. They scored 111 points. It's not like they had problems creating shots, except for one sequence in the third quarter when they made a couple of turnovers, and that's actually where Germany managed to build their 8 or 10 point lead. And the feeling is that Americans still didn't treat this competition seriously enough with their approach, with their lack of attention to details, lack of scouting, lack of game plan. And we talked about this roster before the World Cup, that it's kind of it seems like a good fit to FIBA rules, but in the end they were heavily punished with all the mismatches. And I wouldn't completely agree that Germany beat USA with their style. Yes, it's a high scoring game and a lot of fast breaks and all that stuff, but when you're looking for mismatches by posting up players like Voigtman or Tiemann, it's not necessarily American style of basketball. You don't really see Tiemann or Voigtman playing that much in the low post in EuroLeague because they rarely have any mismatches, and Voigtman isn't even that good with his back to the basket. So Americans were heavily punished basically for their approach and for the fact that in the United States now basketball is all about 5 guys that can switch on defense, and the true center is basically non-existent. It's a discussion to a point where people are even throwing names and saying that they needed Kevon Looney to win the World Cup or a player like similar to him, not a superstar. I read a tweet from Kevin O'Connor saying that they needed to play Walker Kessler more and Jaren Jackson Jr. at 4 because that's where he's best in Memphis Grizzlies, playing next to Steven Adams. So, it's strange to think about it, that America didn't lack stars. They lacked role players, good, solid role players to actually win the World Cup. Although in the end they lost to a really quality team, an elite team, one of the best European teams right now. This Germany team has been together for almost 3 years with more or less the same core of players, constantly adding some guys, and this is a great team built from solid NBA players with a lot of talent, good EuroLeague players like Andy Obst, who's a 3-point specialist. His off-ball movement is crazy. It was giving nightmares to Team USA. So all these things added together, you have this result. And Grant Hill maybe should have a look at this to create some sort of a strategy and continuity, because it's not really normal when in 2019 you send a group of young guys and they end up in 7th place. They get you to the Olympics, but in the end, it was not a good performance 7th place for Team USA. 4 years later, you send a completely new group of young guys, and there's absolutely no continuity in this. And Steve Kerr is right. It's not 1992 anymore. You cannot just throw random roster every single time and expect to beat solid teams like Germany, Serbia, France, Australia, etc. So, yeah, these are my first few takes.
I just thought that talking about Team USA, I think they expected much more from Jaren Jackson Jr. That did not work out at all. His ability in the drop to protect the rim was, I would say, not that impactful at all as Grant Hill, Steve Kerr expected. And the switching defense as well. I mean, after Jaren Jackson gets in foul trouble, or he gets, there are no defensive rotations on his drop defense if Germany played an empty corner pick and roll, you then throw Banchero in the game to switch, through all 5 positions. But Andy Obst is beating the guy off the dribble. I didn't think Banchero was as good playing that switch defense, and it was just too easy for the guys for EuroLeague guys to beat NBA frontcourt players from the perimeter. And as you said, it wasn't actually NBA style win for Germany. The only thing that's similar is how much points they scored, because Johannes Thiemann, it was a point of emphasis, I think, for Germany to punish those switches through inside. And they even admitted after the game, we took a page out of Lithuania book. We were trying to pick the smaller defenders and to pick after switches, to go inside, because they saw that created a lot of problems for USA in that loss against Lithuania. And the other thing was just, Andy Obst and his off-ball movement. I was expecting this, and we saw that right from the beginning. I don't know how, but they scored of the same play for 3 or 4 times in the second half. And it's not like they were running this with 5 minutes apart. They ran that action, one after the other. And Halliburton was put on Andy Obst. He is following. He is late. And then they don't communicate. They don't have a rule. They don't have any rules on what to do when he's curling off that pin down and handoff. I was shocked that such a simple action. This is probably the first or second thing. This is probably one of the things you talk, in the first week of practices when you are in the new team. What are we doing if there is a pin down and the guy curls? You usually switch, and the guy was curling for 3 times. Third time he shot, and he caught the ball and shot a 3-pointer immediately. So I was surprised, but at the same time not, because like I said, I was expecting problems here. And the other thing was obviously offensive rebounds. I think it was another game where USA got outscored in second chance points. Yes, to be correct, it's 25-8. And already in the first possession, guess what happens? Anthony Edwards sleeps on the weak side. I don't remember who, but runs from the 3-point line inside, grabs the rebound. It's a longer possession, but Andy Obst opens the scoring account with the 3-pointer. And we saw guys flying in from the 3-point line with no box out. And you have to adapt playing to FIBA rules. I mean, it's the 7th, 8th game they played in the tournament, and you are thinking, like, coaches are definitely making an emphasis here when looking at the game, and USA just didn't improve throughout the tournament. And the same problems that we said are going to be problems before, just we saw all of them in the semifinal again.
Could it be the thing? Could it be the problem of implementing the bad habits? Because we just basically spoke about it with Rytis straight after the game, that why they start playing a little bit some defense when they're already down and the game is slipping away. That's what they maybe did against Germany in the end. I mean, all of these guys, they're not playing for, at least most of these guys, they're not playing for teams that played for titles last year. We know that in the regular season, the importance of one possession is way different than Europe. And maybe it's so hard to switch, from having bad habits to FIBA competition, where in a knockout stage every game matters, and you face more disciplined teams, and where the level of talent is not as big as it was before with Team USA and other teams, and those small things, they really matter. So could it be the thing of just bringing bad habits to the competition where they're being punished for these bad habits?
I think both of you made some good points, and I agree with you, first of all, Donatas, about these bad habits that you bring from the NBA regular season, because you sort of play the same way. Like, you have a 48-minute game, they have a 10-0 run, we will respond by having our 10-0 run. In the end, we will start playing defense for the last 5 or 6 minutes, and the more talented team usually ends up winning the game. And even if you lose, the loss doesn't really matter as much. So when you don't have the experience of playing these knockout competitions where one single game might eliminate you, it's probably hard for them to have this mental switch so quickly from their world to this world, where the reality is completely different. And a very good point that August actually made, and I wanted to say that Germany just killed them with the basics of basketball. Like, how can you be punished by a simple pin down for 3 possessions in a row, or just a simple handoff where Daniel Theis hands the ball to Andy Obst, and then 3 American defenders are basically blocked by Theis setting a simple screen. I mean, these are simple things, and even their switch defense, I would call that lazy switching. Because for switch defense to be effective, you need to switch as quickly as possible, to be as close as possible to the guy you're now taking over. And the guy that is going to the paint with the bigger guy, Timon or Voigtman, whatever, also has to be aggressive. Only Josh Hart probably showed some effort to, let's say, deny those passes to front Timon or Voigtman. I only saw these things from him, and maybe a little bit from Mikal Bridges.
That's a good point.
All the other guys start to get serious only in the fourth quarter.
It's like,
so yeah,
they don't.
You continue,
I just wanted to add to your point. Like, they don't do the work before the big guys get the ball inside. It's usually against the switch in Europe. You see guys trying to front people. You see guys trying to push you to catch the ball as far as possible from the basket. Here, they are trying to do that, but it's like more imitation of it. And then if you receive the ball, on the paint area, like on the line of painted area, it's much easier for those guys to score. If no double comes, then it's it becomes extremely hard. So that's really a great point you made here.
So after that, probably we'll take some more time to appreciate Germany. But now, finishing my thoughts, wrapping up about Team USA and their issues and why they cannot win the World Cup for the second time in a row, although they're at least fighting for a medal this year, is the fact that they're in a too comfortable position. It's too easy for them to qualify to the Olympics from FIBA Americas, because they just need to get to the quarterfinal, and they are one of the 2 best teams already. And we know that for the United States, there's nothing more important than winning the Olympic gold. The World Cup doesn't really seem to matter that much, so they can afford to send their Team C, Team D, or whatever, just build these random rosters from some young players and be in the position to qualify for the Olympics. And then when the Olympics come, they pull out the big guns, right? And they win the gold medal. There's Kevin Durant, there might be Steph Curry, Anthony Davis, and many others. So they're in a comfort zone, let's say. They can afford to lose. They can afford to finish 7th, 5th, 8th, 3rd, whatever, and still play in the Olympic Games. If they faced, let's say, more serious competition from FIBA Americas, or this qualification to the Olympics had a different system, maybe Grant Hill and all these other guys would have to put more effort to actually getting all these best players to play in the FIBA World Cup. Because like in 2019, they finished seventh, Argentina finished second, these two teams got to the Olympics. This time, there's only Canada and the United States. So, yeah.
Yeah, the thing about bringing back NBA superstars is tough, because actually that's the same, basically a very similar question to what was asked to Carmelo Anthony. And from his answer, I really understood that this whole thing of losing 2 consecutive World Cups is not going to change the Americans' approach on other competitions than the Olympics. And it's very hard to believe that the best players are going to return, because they have their own reasons. They have those huge contracts that also puts them in some, let's say, as you mentioned, comfort position, where you start, weighing in, should I, spend summer and risk my body, my health in the national team competition, or I should stick to development and getting this crazy contract. So from the answer that Carmelo, from what Carmelo said, I don't expect NBA superstars returning as it happened basically with the Redeem team. But there was one good question actually about our Beyond Plus member. It was just in the WhatsApp chat for a general discussion. I think it was Mark. And he asked, how many of these 12 USA players would you say are locks to be on the roster for the Paris Olympics? And it was funny that Kyle Weems, former Virtus Bologna forward, also brought up this question. And he tweeted that only player of this USA team I'm putting on the Olympic team is Ant, possibly Mikal Bridges. And other than that, I feel like all of them are gone. I would say that
maybe Halliburton
as well.
With the front line they have, I mean, it's hard to leave Jaren Jackson out of the team. I mean, he dealt with huge issues adjusting to FIBA game, foul trouble. He was not as efficient defender as we all expected, but with some experience and with some other personnel around him, he should be better, way better on United States roster.
I think,
but we're talking about like maximum 3 or 4 guys.
I think, yeah, maximum 3 guys. And one other thing I wanted to mention is I think USA were really high on Brunson as well. But we saw yesterday that he was trying to do a little bit too much on his own. It felt like he thinks this is the New York Knicks, where he has to be the main guy, and sometimes trying to force the issue a little bit too much, I would say, turning that resulted in turning the ball over, and that got Germany running in the transition, and that Germany got running in the transition to start the third quarter when they made that big run to start. So that Halliburton was subbed in with 7.5 minutes in the third quarter. Like Brunson played, I think, 2.5 minutes, and he was subbed out. Says a lot about his performance yesterday. I thought more was expected from him. They probably saw him as one of the main guy with Ant in this team. So
Brandon Ingram. He was completely miserable in this competition.
He didn't play yesterday
because he was out.
A lot of unexpected underperformance in this World Cup on Team USA roster.
It's hard.
I would say for some of these players like Ingram, maybe they just didn't find a place for him, a role where he could feel happy and play. And that also raises an interesting point of discussion. Maybe you have too many star players on your team. Maybe it would be enough to have like only 2 dominant players like Anthony Edwards and Tyrese Halliburton next to him, and you build a roster around them with hard-working role players like Josh Hart. And maybe the fact I've mentioned Kevon Looney in the beginning is not a joke. Maybe you need guys like these around superstars who could just grab a rebound and set a screen. And now you have a bunch of players that actually they want the ball. Even Paulo Banchero wants the ball in his hands and wants to create and do something and score. And he's still a rookie. And for me, it's kind of hard to judge these rookies or players who only played 2 seasons in the NBA with no playoff experience, because I remember that in Athens 2004, LeBron James, the next big thing in basketball, the number one draft pick, he was there. He couldn't perform. Dwayne Wade was there. He couldn't perform. So they're still young. They need to grow, but we're not sure if we are going to see anything like that in the future. Like I'm talking about this current roster of Team USA. We're not sure if we're going to see Austin Reeves and Paolo Banchero playing for USA in the future. But Austin Reeves could have chosen Germany. Paolo Banchero could have chosen Italy, and they would definitely help those teams. So
I don't know. I have Andy Obst. I'm good. I don't need Austin Reeves.
Yeah, Andy Obst, man. Let's not forget that in our second podcast, maybe during the World Cup, I said that I still have this feeling that there's going to be this Reggie Miller-esque Andy Obst game. This one game where he turns into Reggie Miller, similarly to last year's Eurobasket quarterfinal versus Germany. And that game happened to such an extent that Team USA didn't know what to do with him. And I didn't really notice that, but August, you probably mentioned it, that they actually even tried box and one with Andy Obst for a short sequence, which was not really successful.
It was the first possession of the third quarter, and I was surprised. I was watching a Lithuanian broadcast with Rytis, and I was watching the FIBA broadcast as well with Mike Taylor on it, and he's doing an amazing job. And he was trying to understand and Rytis and the coach were both trying to understand at the same time. Well, what is this defense they're playing? And for the first possession, I thought it was a box and one because they had Obst defended in the corner with the ball almost at half court, like staying so close to him, and that's why Daniel Theis got that mid-range jumper wide open to start the third quarter. And then it all went downhill, I thought, from there. So maybe it was just, how coaches sometimes try to fake the defenses that they're going to throw at the opponents. Maybe let's do this for one or two possessions to start the game or start the third quarter, and then we're going when we're completely changing. Like we are doing the defense we're going to do for the whole game. So maybe it was only that, but it started that run from Germany in the third quarter.
Yeah, and you know what? I've mentioned it during the broadcast like so many times. I said, okay, so Team USA just needs 2 stops in a row, but they never couldn't even get one. And the thing is, even if they force Germany to miss, or at least have the luck for a German player to miss a good look, their center is guarding the perimeter. So for Americans, grabbing the rebound was like a wheel of fortune. You spin it, and sometimes you're lucky, sometimes you're not. And they didn't really control the rebounds. They were lucky to get some of those, but that's the thing, and that's where Germany was also very well prepared. And since Obst means fruit, I would say Germany definitely got the fruits from trusting Dennis Schroeder in the quarterfinal when he had that bad game versus Latvia.
Absolutely.
He was just balling in the semifinal. The way he was targeting his teammate in the LA Lakers, Austin Reeves, in the end of the game, and he had the ball in his hands to close the game and made a big play after big play. Even in the beginning, he started involving his teammates. He picked up like 3 assists in 5 minutes. He hit his first 3-pointer, which obviously allowed him to feel better about himself. And he just had a great ball game. As a leader, as a point guard, he definitely had a great ball game. And in my opinion, it's the consequence of trusting him during that bad period in the quarterfinal. So now you had the best version of Dennis Schroeder versus Team USA. And naming all the other guys, it's such a joy to watch Franz Wagner play basketball. He has like a body of a perfect basketball player. I'm talking about his size. I'm talking about his ability to use his body, the way he does the Euro step. It's really beautiful, and his ability to score in every possible situation. He can post up. He can face the basket. He can drive to the right, to the left. He can shoot the free from a really deep range. He can play a pick and roll. The guy can do anything, and he's probably gonna be an NBA All-Star in a near future. The way he is progressing, and he's only 21, and he's already considered a superstar in FIBA basketball. And I mean, he's just a smart, skilled player who also has this gift of nature to have this body, long arms, and everything.
Speaking of France, Wagner, I hope that that's what Matas Buzelis will bring to Lithuanian national team. So many similarities between their games, and I hope that he's gonna be that flashy perimeter player who can do so many different things and bring excitement to our national team's game. But I really want to go back with this role players idea, and national team competitions being competitions determined by role players. And I would like to change the definition of a role player in a FIBA basketball. For me, the role player can be Bogdan Bogdanovic and Nikola Milutinov. I mean, Serbia for me is the best example. To be honest, I really have doubts if Nikola Jokic and Vasilij Micic was in this competition. I really have doubts if this team, led by Svetislav Pesic, would have reached the final. But now, this Serbia team has clear role player, leader on the backcourt, on the perimeter, Bogdan Bogdanovic. When they need to punish somebody in the paint, when they have this huge advantage of Nikola Milutinov in the paint, drawing double teams or just scoring in the paint, as he did against Canada, you have Milutinov, another, let's say, great role player as your leader. And then there are a lot of specialists, helpers that contribute in many different ways. Marko Guduric with his also, let's say, being secondary ball handler option. Of course, there's Stefan Jovic, Aleksa Avramovic, all the other guys. I mean, they're playing their roles. And that's what makes this national team basketball interesting. And that's what makes these teams great. So I love this idea because even when you watch Germany, Canada, okay, Franz Wagner, of course, you need star players, star power like Franz Wagner, amazing game. Dennis Schroeder, amazing bounce back game for him. Daniel Theis was also great. But look at the fourth quarter. You have Andy Obst, making decisive three-pointer in the end of the game. Before, I mean, he's scoring 24 points, game high, incredible performance by him. Then you have Isaac Bonga making two crucial blocks. One, it was from the behind on Jalen Brunson, and the last one brought back me, I don't know, Tayshaun Prince or LeBron James block memories from the NBA games. It was a huge block on Bridges as well. I mean, it looked like he's gonna score and cut the lead to 2 points. There's this Johannes Timon, I mean, holding his ground with defensive rebounding and killing them on the low post. So I don't see this win happening without the role players. And we have examples of Germany, we have examples of Serbia, of how much role players are important. And just the last thing about Andy Obst. I've just accidentally read this article about Andy Obst when he was 18 and when he started playing for Bamberg. It was back in 2014. And he told that he brought a poster from his previous team. I don't even want to pronounce this team's name because my German pronunciation might be really bad. But from his home, he brought one poster, and it was Dirk Nowitzki poster, on which it was written, all dreams sound crazy until they come true. So 9 years later, we have Andy Obst. We have Andy Obst happening, reincarnating into Reggie Miller and winning this game for Germany. So just incredible story of German basketball.
And we're probably going to see another season in the EuroLeague where he averages 5.7 points per game, and we will all be thinking, oh, again, yeah, this is the guy who dropped 24 points on Team USA with 6 assists on top of that. That's probably what's going to happen. And yeah, what you said about role players, it's true. I don't necessarily agree with the fact that Jokic and Micic would be a problem for Serbia with Pesic as the head coach. I don't necessarily agree with that.
But they would change the picture completely of the team. Like they wouldn't be as defensive
differently. They would play differently. Yeah, I don't necessarily agree they wouldn't make the final. It's kind of hard to prove right now. But what Gordy Herbert did, and it was a good decision in my eyes, that in the second half he shortened his rotation. Like he realized that for Germany to withstand Team USA, he has to play the maximum possible minutes with his best players, and he would just give a short break to Dennis Schroeder or Franz Wagner, but he just shortened the rotation. Guys like Mo Delo barely even played in the second half, and I'm happy that you mentioned Isaac Bonga, not because of his big defensive plays, but in that moment where Team USA was actually catching up, and they gave away a corner free to Bonga, and that's what teams do in Europe. He played for Bayern Munich last season, and teams could just leave him in the corner. They go help from him. They go help from the strong side, and they don't really bother contesting his shots. But he had the confidence to make that shot, and his teammate had the confidence to give him the shot. So again, it's nice to see all these guys that maybe didn't perform so well last season for their clubs, playing and being important players for the national teams in this FIBA World Cup.
Yeah, some of our colleagues in the workroom are really irritating. Let's go with Serbia, Canada, right?
Yeah.
I've actually downloaded. It's for me. I mean, for Ritis is different because it's all about play by play, watching the game, the screen, the floor entire time, and you can be fully focused on games. For me as a reporter, it's different. You have to check for some facts. You have something to tweet. You see something happening on the sidelines. So you're not so fully focused into the game. So usually if I have time, I download the game from the services that we have. And for instance, we have this Instat service. So, and usually when you download the game, there was USA, Germany, fourth quarter, USA, Germany, third quarter. I don't know why, I don't know how, but for some reason when I downloaded Serbia Canada game, it was Avramovic first quarter, Avramovic second quarter, Avramovic third quarter, and Avramovic fourth quarter. Although, it was not the clips of Avramovic, it was the clips of the actual game. So, I mean, Avramovic is, of course, just one piece of the whole puzzle that made this great Serbian victory, but just wanted to start this segment about Serbia and Canada from Aleksa's side, because again we're talking about the role players, and Avramovic to some extent he illustrates the DNA of the Serbian national team. Maybe you're a little bit less talented, but the desire and the will, the energy, the effort, the discipline, the focus can change so many things. And Aleksa Avramovic on the court is a game changer. I love the story of Bogi Bogdanovic. He told that Avramovic basically locked himself in the hotel room for 2 days to watch Shai Gilgeous-Alexander clips, highlights, and he was just studying his game. And he was, from what I heard, he was saying to everybody in Serbian national team camp that I'm for sure going to steal at least one ball from Shai. And he did it twice, actually. And in situations where it was not just about, let's say, reading passing lines and making good steal. It was about just taking ball from Shai in the middle of the court. So Aleksa Avramovic is a game changer with his energy. He did this in Partizan already. If you remember, he missed basically 5 months last season due to an injury. He came back for a Fenerbahce game in Istanbul. It was a tough moment for Partizan, and I think that Fenerbahce was on the top of the standings. He comes, he brings energy, he makes huge plays in the fourth quarter, he makes the game-winning free throw, and then suddenly the whole projection of Partizan season is changing. So Avramovic is not necessarily, he's a crazy guy, and his craziness not necessarily translates to efficiency on consistent basis, but he's the guy, he's that role player that can change things when you think that, Canada maybe should have won that game, but they were lacking of those type of guys like Aleksa Avramovic. So kudos to him. He's one of those heroes that they made this great victory.
Partizan were 4 of 9.
For sure.
Partizan were 4 of 9, 4 wins and 9 losses when Avramovic came back, and then they went on to being almost a Final Four team. And I thought those first 5 minutes when he entered the court was probably the greatest 5 minutes of defensive playmaking in the entire tournament. He he got a block on Shai. Shai got called for an offensive foul. Then he pressured the point guard. Canada got a bad shot. They went to transition. He made an assist to Jovic. Then he scored a 2-pointer going coast to coast. Then he drew an offensive foul on the pick and roll. Then he stole the ball from RJ Barrett, who was going in transition. I mean, what was that? Like, just timing that perfectly. That was just amazing. Then Shai was like, okay, I'm going to post this little guy up. And Aleksa just deflected the ball out of bounds. And then he contested a 3-pointer from Alexander Walker and made it into a turnover. And I was like, yeah, I don't care what other guys did. I don't care what Lou Dort, Dillon Brooks did. But this guy is in the final. And only for these 5 minutes, he deserves the Defensive Player of the Tournament award. Serbia went plus 11 in the last 3 minutes of the first quarter when he was on the court. And that was the first huge run they made. And Serbia led throughout the game for at least like 10 points. Canada never really got back into the game. Canada never really made it a close game after that. And Spain had Alberto Diaz last year. If Serbia win, Aleksa Avramovic is
Alberto Diaz award goes to Aleksa Avramovic.
Exactly.
Right? But guys, you can add something about Aleksa.
I want to add something about him because I think his speed is also a bit underrated. It's not mentioned as much. He can just blow by people on the court, especially if he's driving to his left. So that's another thing. Not only that he's so dedicated to steal the ball, to pressure his opponent, to do all the right things defensively, but he can actually play basketball. He's a good ball handler. He has the speed. Okay, we're not expecting him to all of a sudden become a EuroLeague superstar, but he is a good quality guard that any coach would probably want to have on his team. But the thing is, we've already spent like 3 minutes talking about him, and you might mention his name for 5 or 6 more times. But we could spend as much time talking about any guy on the Serbian team that actually played, and all of them had some big crucial moments in the game. And the difference to me, if let's say we compare the two semifinals, because Canada is basically a team built from NBA players just like Team USA, with maybe less star power. But I was so critical about Team USA and their approach and all of that. And I'm not really critical. I'm not going to be critical talking about Team Canada, because they had the right approach, they had the effort and everything. It's just that Serbia is so good right now. They maybe even played better than in the quarterfinal, where we were already talking that Serbia played almost a perfect game of basketball, and then in the semifinal, they're even better. Of course, Canada had to deal with many issues. Jordi Fernandez had to make a lot of decisions because players were getting into foul trouble early. Their backup center, Kyle Alexander, seemed like he's not prepared to play the way he didn't grab a rebound after a free throw, and Bogdanovic got an and one. So he had to substitute players every 2 minutes. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander was in a foul trouble. Dillon Brooks was in a foul trouble. Dwight Powell, Kelly Olynyk. But Canada played the way they can, and honestly, they tried. They played defense. They were trying to be tough. They were trying to respond. It's just that Serbia was too good. They in the third quarter, after 2 or 3 minutes, it seemed like, okay, so now Canada is getting back, because they're playing much better than in the first half, with more energy, involving Shai Gilgeous-Alexander even more, creating more opportunities for him. But Serbia just responded. They always kept the same lead, like 10 or 12 points, and it was similar to what happened in the quarterfinal versus Lithuania in a way.
But the one main difference that I've noticed was, for me, it felt like Canada was a little bit confused with the officiating, because I really wish to be in Slovenia's. I really wish to be in a Luka Doncic hotel room where he's watching the game with his guys and watching those calls that Serbians got playing to Canada's defense, because the physicality level that was allowed in this game was so different compared to the previous one. I'm not saying that refs were whistling every contact, but because in some cases Canada, they were using hands illegally, and it was a little bit, let's say, these plays were not as clear as in the game against Slovenia, but still the physicality level that was allowed by officials was so different. And I don't think that I think that Canada was shocked. You have Dillon Brooks getting into the foul trouble in the first minutes of the second quarter. He got 3 fouls. Shai also before the halftime, 3 fouls. In the basically middle of the third quarter, Kelly Olynyk and Dillon Brooks already with 4 fouls. It's rarely seen in national team basketball. Of course, it includes Jordi Fernandez risks. But I mean, I really think that Canada, at first, maybe they tried to be physical, but they got confused with the officiating, and later they just couldn't adjust. And for me, they looked like, lost the entire game defensively because of this fact. And when I asked this Jordi Fernandez after the game, he was super polite and super diplomatic about the officiating, but it really felt that, they weren't happy about the way things were going, and with this contrast in 48 hours.
I agree.
Hey man, I don't really agree with this officiating issue. Like, they finally they faced a team that is as physical as they are, and Serbians had the same treatment and the same officiating as Canada. Slovenia is not a very physical team. It was a different ball game.
It's not about that Serbians were allowed to be physical. It's about how less physical Canada could be compared to the game against Slovenia. And I think that they got kind of distracted that in 44 hours, you have to play way different ball game. Because if this officiating was in Slovenia game, I mean, Dillon Brooks probably was fouled out before the halftime.
That's why I agree, because we are comparing here only Canada's defense and not Serbian defense, I think, in this conversation. And definitely there was a lower level of contact allowed in the semifinal than in the quarterfinal. I think Luka Doncic was like, why the hell they were not giving me these fouls in the quarterfinal, And probably this was the first time Canada were called for these ones. It was some of them were pretty weird. Shai's foul trouble had nothing to do with it. However, he reached in for his third foul, kind of, there was no need to do that, reaching for the ball from behind. But I just want to say that Serbia did on defense what other teams were trying to do to Canada. And Shai had only the third highest field goal attempt in his own team. Like RJ Barrett and Dillon Brooks took more shots than Shai. He was limited to 8 shots in 30 something minutes, and basically in every ISO situation he saw 2 guys. There was one possession where he was about to shoot a fadeaway jumper on the mid-range, and Bogdanovic is still stunting from the strong side, and they prefer a wide open RJ Barrett 3-pointer than a fadeaway by Shai. That says a lot, and they connected on 2 of these 3-pointers from 4 in the first half, but when they crowded the area on Shai's pick and rolls, he was just passing every time. And it was a smart decision, because Dort is average shooter. Brooks is an average shooter. RJ Barrett is a better one, but he's a streaky one. You never know what you're going to get from him. So it was just Besic choosing other guys to shoot instead of Shai, and it was a winning tactic.
Yeah, that's a really great point. They forced Shai Gilgeous-Alexander to be a passer instead of a scorer. That's why he got 10 assists. But basically, Serbia was more than happy to see the other guys shooting. And these other guys had a good shooting night in the quarterfinal. But we said that it's probably not that sustainable. Canada is still not a great shooting team. And you could see that RJ Barrett was missing shots, Lou Dort was missing shots, some other guys as well. And Canada, this roster, doesn't have too many ball handlers. So for Avramovic and the other guys to be aggressive, it's kind of a good matchup for them, because there's only one ball handler on the floor, 2 at most. if let's say there was Jamal Murray, we would see a completely different basketball game. But in this case, your primary ball handler is Shai, and who's the other one? Like, who's helping him?
I mean,
Dillon Brooks is not a pure ball handler.
We saw so
Archie
many.
Barrett is not a pure ball handler.
We saw so many Dillon Brooks shots, like those crazy, like he's going driving inside, he's bumping the guys, and he was making these shots throughout the tournament. But you can't count on these shots in every night to fall. So, yeah.
But yeah, Jordi Fernandez made a good point. I mean, they still scored 86 points, even with this offense. And it was more related to their defense against Serbians, 95 points.
Although I couldn't do nothing to Milutinov.
Although I think, it all, let's say, combines. You didn't have a game rhythm because Shai was a passer. They didn't feel themselves defensively because the level of the contact allowed was way different. And as I said, just my general impression, Canada was just very confused, and Serbia, they just continued to play with the same pace, intensity, Bogdanovic making crazy shots, other players stepping up. I mean, yeah.
Yeah, they couldn't cope with Milutinov. That was a big problem for Canada. And the fact they scored 86 points doesn't necessarily mean they played a good offensive game, because they had 39 in the first half and they were down 13. So in the second half, they started making just short possession shooting from the first possible option. They had 5-6 second attacks. So that increases the number of possessions in the second half. So you do score more points, but it doesn't necessarily mean you play more quality basketball. Okay, in the third quarter, yes, they were better. They had a good run. But still, to me, their loss is, first of all, down to Serbia being great. That's the biggest major reason why Serbia is in the final and Canada is in the bronze medal game. The second reason is they didn't really have the tools to stop Milutinov to such an extent where the coach Jordi Fernandez even decided to try Zach Edey. But since Zach Edey entered the court, Pešić just put Petrushev instead of Milutinov so he could have a center that pops and shoots the free. And Jordi Fernandez immediately decided that nope, Zach Edey, it's not going to work, and did a reverse substitution. So they couldn't stop Milutinov in the paint. He had such a huge impact on the game, and the lack of ball handlers and shooters surrounding Shai Gilgeous-Alexander is also, to me, a big reason. Even though they scored 86 points, I wouldn't say they had a great offensive performance. In the quarterfinal, they were great. They scored 100 points, but also Slovenia is not Serbia. Slovenia doesn't play defense the way Serbia
I think
does.
Probably this was the first time where we saw Canada team being the less physical team on the court in this tournament. Like we were always saying, how Lou Dort, Alexander Walker, Dillon Brooks, they're playing the defense of the tournament. They are the best perimeter defenders. But hey, Serbia have Guduric, Serbia have Avramovic, Serbia have Ognjen Dobric, who I thought played an amazing game. Bogdanovic was playing good defense as well, and not only they were playing defense, I thought that with Milutinov trying to punish those Canada switches inside, and Canada were not finding any medicine to this. Serbian guards gave that combination of inside and outside presence to beat Canada's aggressive defense, because Dobric, Aleksa, Bogdanovic, Guduric, they all can beat the Canada defenders, even Brooks and Dort off the dribble. And we saw that. Other teams in the tournament really were struggling with Canada's aggressive close like defense, even at half court. And these guys were just beating them with speed, and they were not afraid of Dwight Powell, Kelly Olynyk at the rim. So this made a nice balance between Milutinov's post-ups, perimeter play, and then, of course, Bogey just being his best version Bogey that we could see. He was bad against Italy. He was missing those shots, but Serbia were not playing as well against Italy. They were relying on individual shots, I think, a lot in the fourth quarter, and in this game it was different. It was nice balance. I think Serbia's game is evolving with every match, and hey, they are in final for this reason.
And Bogdan Bogdanovic in the quarterfinal and in the semifinal, he played like a Serbian mamba. He is so consistent. You look at his numbers from these two games, the consistency, the field goal percentage, the decision making, assists, and everything. He played two amazing games to help his team reach the final. But also, I would like to finish on a positive note about Canada. I think this FIBA World Cup is a huge experience for Jordi Fernandez as a young coach. There's a lot to learn from, and I'm really excited to see them next year if they add Jamal Murray and maybe even Andrew Wiggins. Finally they are in the Olympics. First of all, now they're going to play for a medal, so it's already a big step up for Canada. And knowing that they still don't have a star point guard, which they could actually have, and he was probably close to joining the national team this summer, but in the end decided not to play because of the NBA Finals and the long playoff run. With the same coach, with the same players, and the addition of Jamal Murray, Andrew Wiggins, they're going to be a real powerhouse in the near future.
Okay, let's wrap it up with the prediction for the final. And we can share also our MVP predictions, but yeah, let's go with both.
We can start with giving Donatas kudos for guessing the both semifinal winners correct. I think me and Ritis had one correct, or Ritis were predicting USA Canada.
I had Serbia and USA in the final.
I had Germany.
I always get a lot
Canada,
of
so.
Yeah, you had Germany and Canada. I always get a lot of hate in my country for being in love with American basketball, and maybe that's fair. But I did see them in the final, yeah.
I did get a lot of comments on Twitter saying, "Hey, pick the other team, not Serbia, to win in your predictions." So Serbia are going to win the final, the opposite psychology. But
should we predict the bronze medal game first? Should we predict the bronze medal game first, or it doesn't matter to you guys?
It actually should matter.
But does it matter to USA and Canada?
It's let's say a North American derby or something like that. Maybe it matters. NBA players facing each other.
They're trying to figure out who are world champions in that, I think.
I wanted this to be the final, actually. I wanted this to be the final. Now they're going to play for bronze. I'm picking Team USA. What do you guys think?
I don't know. I probably go with Canada. I don't know. I think third place sometimes is like, now teams are playing for 5th or 8th spot, and usually the teams that want it more win. And I have this feeling that for Canada, this might be a historic chance to get a bronze medal in the World Cup. For the United States, if it's not a gold, they don't want it. They want it, but it doesn't mean probably anything for those guys. The mentality of USA sports is win. It's only about winning. It's not about second place. It's not about third place. So maybe for Canada it has more meaning, and I think Canada are going to win.
Yeah, I have the same prediction. I think that, although I'm really, for me it's like 50-50, because even for Team USA, I think that they will bounce back. They're a little bit deeper. They have what it takes to win this game. So I really don't know. Maybe I will go with Canada. Maybe I will cheer for them, because it's great to see them, getting this team finally. And for Canada, it would mean a lot. I think that Jordi Fernandez is a great motivator, and he will regroup the squad to win the bronze, which would be huge for Canada basketball. And let's say as something like a good good background for the future victories, and especially for Paris Olympics when maybe Jamal Murray will join them. So.
And you know what? In the context of this tournament, it looks like Canada maybe deserves it more because they beat the European champions and Eurobasket finalists. They beat Spain and France, two European powerhouses. The United States, honestly, didn't beat any good teams. Like, they lost to Lithuania and Germany, and beating Greece with the roster that Dimitris Itoudis had. I mean, what else can you expect? And Italy was just a too comfortable opponent for them, so they didn't really beat anyone that's serious enough. And Canada actually crushed France and managed to win a do-or-die game versus Spain. So in the context of the tournament, it looks like they deserve the medal a little bit more.
I just want to see Anthony Edwards, Dillon Brooks matchup. That should be pretty exciting.
Fair. Yeah, that's fair.
And obviously Shai versus Brunson and Tyrese. Although we'll see if not Mikal Bridges is defending him.
Okay, so what are your final predictions?
I'm not gonna be unpopular here. Serbia is just too good right now. And Germany is so talented. They're great. They are fun to watch. I love them so much. And I'm expecting a close game. I'm expecting a tough game. I'm not expecting, let's say, mental mistakes from Germans that, let's say, Serbia were punishing playing Canada, like Dobric versus Olinik and all that stuff. I think Germans will be really focused. They will be really tough. They will try to do... I mean, they probably have to play their best defensive game to win the final. And they're capable of. I mean, if they play Australia, that was a tough game. To me, that was like what built this team up to this point where they are right now. The game versus Australia in the group stage, it's so important, and I wanted to mention that. And I do believe that Germany has the tools and everything, and they can match Serbia. But when I think about this mentality of Serbian players, and I remember the Serbian teams from the past, when they get it going, there's no stopping them usually. Only USA with their biggest stars managed to stop Serbia in these situations, let's say 2014, 2016. So I'm predicting Serbia to win the gold and the World Cup, and then the MVP is an easy pick. It's obviously Bogdan Bogdanovic.
I have to agree here with Ritis. I don't know if Serbia fans love my choice here, but I think that Serbia have the necessary tools on both sides of the court. They have so many different weapons, inside, outside. You know, they have guys that can pressure the ball. They have scorers. They have Bogdanovic. They have Milutinov inside, who could be a big trouble even for Daniel Theis. They can play Petrushev at 5 if Germany wants to go with Voigtman at 5. Or, you know, it's Moritz Wagner who can also pop, not only play the inside game. I think they have the necessary defenders for France, for Dennis. I think we might see a little bit of what Latvia tried to do in the quarterfinal against Dennis, you know, taking that risk, at least in the beginning. I could easily see this happening from Serbia's coaching staff, and who knows if Dennis is the same efficient as he was in the semifinal, or are we going to see the Dennis that we saw in the quarterfinal? They can play aggressive on the pick and roll. They can play drop with Milutinov. They are switching as well a lot, so they're mixing it up for any team. They're making it difficult. And I love Germany. This is a very close game. I don't think it's not going to be a surprise if Germany wins. But when I see the Serbia team and I see the desire in them, when I see how united they are, especially after what happened to Borisa Šamanić and how they're mentioning it every time, I know how teams get united. I know how every player remembers it, and they just fighting. They just have this message in their brain, and fighting for that player, for the whole nation. So I'm gonna go with Serbia, and my MVP pick is really easy: Aleksa Avramovic. No, I'm kidding. It's Bogdan, obviously. So, Donatas, do you agree?
I didn't see that coming. I really thought that I'm going to be the only one who will go with Serbia with this one, because, I mean, from the objective standpoint, I really think that Germany is more talented team. They're built for winning against teams like Team USA and Canada. They're built for winning the gold. And although you say that Serbia has all the tools, I think that Germany has all the tools to match the Serbia's qualities, and even with Nikola Milutinov, I think that their roster can limit his offensive advantages as much as possible to limit Nikola Milutinov. I mean, they're not going to. It's not like there's clear solution for Milutinov. Of course, they're gonna play through him and they're gonna create advantages, but at least they have the right personnel to kind of limit his advantages. But the thing about Germany, at first I thought about going with Germany. But then I thought, to stay consistent after such a big game against USA, I just have these, I have this flashback from the Eurobasket quarterfinal. They also had this amazing game against Greece. To be honest, those two games were almost identical. Both both teams were in 60s before the halftime. Almost both teams ended up scoring over 100. It was it was probably my best game I watched in person in this Eurobasket game, and I would say that this one matched that experience from the offensive flow dynamics wise. And for me to see Germany flying on the court the same way, I'm not sure. I saw them quite broke against Latvia. I am not the biggest fan of Dennis Schroeder game in this tournament. As Augustas mentioned, I see Serbia taking a lot of risks on Dennis Schroeder, and where I don't see Germany staying consistently with the qualities they have against Team USA, I see Serbia staying consistently with their DNA, because it's their DNA. Intensive, physical, fast tempo, well-coached basketball. I don't see Serbians changing, and I go with consistency in this tournament because they were consistent from the Dominican Republic game. They haven't changed at all, and with this confidence, with the decisions that Svetislav Pesic made, and deserves the huge credit for winning both games, he'll for sure think some of those tricks for the final game. I just pick Serbia, and also pick Serbia because for me it's easier to choose the MVP. Because if I go with Germany, I'm not sure who I'm giving the MVP award to, because
Dennis.
I think that Franz Wagner is amazing, but he missed like 4 or 5 games. Daniel Tai is efficient, but he's not the MVP material for me. And Dennis,
have to give
probably
it to him.
Dennis, but I don't feel that confident about this pick.
But
Hey, you mentioned one good thing, like about beating USA, staying consistent. This situation where Germany is right now, the position they're in right now, reminds me of 2006, where Greece beating USA was a big celebration. People felt like they already won the gold medal, and the team was celebrating on the court. It was a huge thing, and you can understand why. So now Germany beat Team USA, and they're so happy about it. The fans are going crazy. People are hyping this team, and they're in the World Cup final. But that's the thing. Yeah, you did beat USA, but you have to play the final. And Greece just couldn't perform at the same level versus Spain in 2006. So will Germany manage to, let's say, overcome more of the same things? Because, yeah, you did beat Team USA, but now there's this super consistent European team that is all about winning, waiting for you in the final. So that's a good example, in my opinion.
like, the job is not done, and it's not the only example of when team loses after beating United States. France defeated them in the quarterfinal 2019. They lost the semifinal. Lithuania beat USA 1 week ago. They lost in the quarterfinal as well. So it's a big celebration winning against the United States, but the job is not done. And one more note here would be, I know it's been a high-scoring FIBA World Cup, but who would you trust more, defense or offense, to win the final game, a single elimination game? Because you could say this is a Germany's offense versus Serbia defense, even though Serbia doesn't have much problem scoring the ball as well. But first thing that comes into my mind when thinking about this Serbian team is defense, not offense of how it was last year when there was Micic and Jokic. So I just think defense will prevail in this one.
Yeah, and the one last thing that I forgot to mention, that I think that Germany so far, maybe with the exception of Australia, not sure if they face such an intensive and physical team like Serbia. So especially after those two games against Latvia and especially United States, I'm not sure how they're gonna adjust to Serbian way of basketball. At the same time, that's where the officiating also takes its role. What level of contact will be allowed, and how they're gonna treat Serbians playing physical game. That also will be important. So yeah.
Donatas, I have a question for you, man. We're finishing the podcast, and I wanted to ask you: did you notice as well that when Moritz Wagner hit that high-arcing three-point shot, Carmelo Anthony just stood up and left? Did you notice that?
I think that he went. I actually noticed that, and we actually took a video of it. But I think that he just really wanted to go to pee before the fourth quarter, because it was like 1 minute left in the end of the third.
Yeah.
So
probably you're right. I mean, you could use some better words than going to pee, but the timing was so perfect. Like Moritz Wagner hits a crazy high-arcing three-point shot, and a legend of the game, Carmelo Anthony, just stands up and says, "Okay, that's it. I'm not having this anymore. I'm out."
We had the same concerns. Instantly, we started chatting in our Slack group, and it's like, "Hey, did Carmelo leave the game? Is he done for the night?" I mean, he's one of the World Cup ambassadors. He cannot do like that. But I mean, I watched the score. I saw that there was only 1 minute left before the break for the fourth quarter. So I was like, that's just a smart timing to take some pee before the final stretch of the game. So
you just had to mention that same word, right?
I didn't send it.
And then he was back, and he was without his sunglasses. So yeah, he got serious.
Which is also smart.
The fourth quarter
if you're
as well.
inside the arena, it's good to be without sunglasses.
Wow, we are really breaking down Carmelo Anthony going to bathroom, huh? To finish this pod. Okay, guys, I think it's time to wrap it up.
Yeah,
by the
I
way,
think so.
It was a great talk show hosted by FIBA. Carmelo was really great. He brought some interesting insights, which I recommend to read on basketnews.com. I put a segment about his insights and views on Team USA loss, if it's possible to have NBA stars returning, and I was pleased the way he supports this team, and although he admits that it was it was an upset. There's no need to sugarcoat this loss, but I mean, he wants the full support for these guys. And all the other stuff he mentioned, the interesting points he had, you'll find on the article. And I mean, it was a great event in general, and it's good to see Carmelo Anthony as the ambassador of the FIBA World Cup. I love this ambassador thing that FIBA does. We had Kobe, we had Dirk in the Eurobasket, so to have these big names coming up for the biggest games of the tournament and just speaking about the World Cup, speaking about the national team basketball is a huge thing for us, media, and of course for fans in general. And yeah, so far, really well organized FIBA World Cup competition, I would say. I don't know how about you, Rytis, but I mean, everything except the media hotel that we're staying, it's just awesome. Well organized, well structured, and it's very successful event in my eyes. So I hope that in the final day of the tournament, nothing will happen that would make this take age badly.
Yeah,
so.
And they even stepped up their meal game from the quarterfinal stage. When more media came, they're preparing better meals and serving them in bigger amounts. So kudos for that.
But to be honest, my bathroom games stepped down So I'm not sure.
Hey man, now is the time. Now
Yeah,
is the time.
I said
Just-
this 3 minutes ago. It
let's
was time
stop
to
the
wrap it up,
podcast,
and you are
like-
still talking. I don't know why,
like-
guys. Just go work, man.
No. Yeah, just okay, man.
It's
Can
not
you just
easy to
wrap
work
it up?
under these conditions.
Yeah.
Adonis, can you just cut this part? Thank you.
just stop the podcast, and I want to go to the mall. So do it.
You have something to eat. Yeah. Thank you all for watching. Follow us on basketnews.com. Please like this video, subscribe our channel, and enjoy the final days of the World Cup.